Hello, friends, and welcome to Monday Show number 6. I am your host, Wes. With me, as always, my good friend, Roots. Roots, how's the week treating you so far?
So far so good. It's a good week.
Good week. Every week's a good week for you,
That's
right?
right. Yeah, that's right. Every day I wake up's a good day.
Well, Mondays normally suck, but not anymore. The Monday Show is awesome. It's probably my favorite thing to do. And the reason being is because we just get to come in here and talk about what we want to talk about and what we've been playing. And what we've been playing this week, well, first of all, Groundhog's Day. Groundhog's Day, Like Father, Like Son, released last week on the 17th. What was that? Tuesday?
Yeah,
Monday, Tuesday? Yeah.
I believe so.
Released the beginning of last week. For those of you who don't know, this is the official sequel from Sony Pictures to the original Groundhog's Day movie starring Bill Murray. You play the role of his son, returning home to the town. What's the name of the town?
Punxsutawney.
Gobbler's Knob.
Oh yeah, Gobbler's Knob. Yeah, I guess that is the actual town, right?
Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
you're coming home to attend an event in memoriam of your father, the lead character from the first movie. And like the father in that movie, you're reliving the same day again and again and again. I would consider this game to be a situational puzzler with branching dialogue. Basically, you're put into a bunch of real life, real world situations, and you have to find solutions to them. So the next time you play through the day, you advance little by little by little towards your goal of getting the hell out of there. Um, Roots, uh, you've got a little more time in this game than I have. What are your thoughts? Are you having fun in Groundhog's Day?
Yeah, surprisingly I am. I originally went into it thinking I'm not gonna like this. I was kind of disappointed with the way it looked, which is why you should never judge a book by its cover. Um, and it's a puzzler, so but I originally loved the original movie, so I thought, okay, I'll give it a shot, and yeah, I'm loving the way the dialogue goes, like you said, the puzzles, even the little intricacies of um, okay, I'm supposed to order breakfast so I can get out of there early to go to work on the statue in the town or whatever, and so I got to make a phone call for breakfast, and like a couple times I forget and I go downstairs and now it's too late. I've missed that call, and now that I'm moved into a different sequence, um it's very well done, and the story and the dialogue and everything about it is top notch as far as gameplay wise.
Yeah,
So
the production quality I thought was pretty good. I think the voice acting top notch. Haven't really made it far enough in the story to judge ultimately whether or not it's a good story or a good use of storytelling. I think that it probably will be coming from Sony Pictures and who was it? Tequila Works that put this out.
correct, yeah,
Uh,
same people that did Invisible Hours.
right, right. The game plays kind of like Wilson's Heart, where you've got this node-based movement that you're going through, which can be a bit annoying from time to time. But when you get used to it, you can control it a little bit better because it's not exact nodes. It's kind of like area to area, and then when you get in the area, you've got, of course, turning controls that you can turn around with. Um, One of the things I really like the best about this game is the branching dialogue paths. Um, Normally, when you get one of these games that have a branching narrative based on your response with dialogue, uh, like Defector, for example, they give you the three choices. They're supposed to have some kind of meaning and some kind of impact on the story. But what normally ends up happening is you just pick the wrong one and then you pick again. You pick the wrong one and you pick again. In this game, it seems that every single response that you have to a conversation um, has an effect on the story, and you don't get to choose again unless you want to relive the scene or relive the day. You make your choice and you're stuck with it, and then things progress from there. Probably, I've never played the Invisible Hours, but probably one of the, if not the best use of branching dialogue that I've experienced thus far. What did you think about that? What did you think about the way the branching dialogue was set up?
I actually like the branching dialogue. I think it did added a lot to it, and I was just thinking, what's kind of cool about it is just like in the original movie and real life, which ironically, since this isn't real, but if you were to do what you were trying to do, you wouldn't have a chance to go back. You would have to fish. And I've actually gone into some of the puzzles where I've had to get information from somebody, and then he's like, oh yeah, okay, what, and he writes it down or he remembers it, so when you come back the next time, you can call Alice at the place and order the breakfast or whatever it is. There's so many different things. I thought this was going to be a very basic game, but I've fixed a cappuccino machine. Like I've learned a lot of life skills in this game with all these types of things. And like I was telling you, I don't know how many times I've tried to redo this damn statue, and it's gives you everything that the original Groundhog's Day did. Just the repetitiveness, but in a good way.
Yeah, it's growing on me. That first day you play through, when you really don't understand the structure of the game and how everything works, it seemed a bit boring. I was a bit put off by it, but when I got into day two and I started to realize how things work and how the game's going to go, it started to grow on me a little bit. And the more time that I spend in it, the more fun I'm having with it. Of course, I like these narrative-driven games, these movie-like experiences, and the way this is put together, as far as the sound effects, the voice acting, and the script so far, it seems very much like a Hollywood production to me.
Yeah, it's done very well. And what's cool is when you finish a part, and like even if you're not finished completely with a like a day or whatever, like there's so many things that go on in that first day. Once you finish it, you can go downstairs and it just gives you a couple of basic options to either leave right away, or it doesn't make you once you finish it, doesn't make you cook that breakfast a million times over again. Once you're done, you're done. I like that as well, because I don't want to redo the same puzzle I've solved. That's taken it a little too far. But I just like the whole concept of it, because this kid is kind of a douchebag, man. Like the beginning, you're like, man, this guy's kind of a jerk. But as you progress, you can kind of see his perspective, and he's learning more about his dad. And the whole premise is his dad never told him about the whole Groundhog's Day. He always wanted to, but never got a chance to. And so he's learning a little bit about what's going on and why his dad was the way he was. And he just always looked at his dad as like this pompous person that was always Mr. Know-it-all and loved by everybody and never had enough time for him or whatever. Always had some advice to give. And so he's kind of walking around with a chip on his shoulder. So I like the progression of seeing that change, and then also seeing people's perspective of him change as well, because most people that encounter him don't think much of him. So.
Yeah, it's a classic Hollywood narrative. It's just like what would happen to a character in the movie. He comes in, left town, as soon as he could. He's coming home because he has to. He's got a negative attitude toward everyone and everything, and slowly over time, he learns more about himself, and his attitude's obviously going to change over time. And I'm quite sure we're all going to live happily ever after. I just haven't made it that far yet. But again, the more I play it, the more I want to play it. And definitely worth my time, if not worth the price tag. Jury's still out on the price tag, but a quality title nonetheless.
Yeah, I guess for me depends on how much longer I have to go. Because just when I think, okay, I got to be getting close and more quests get on there or more missions or whatever. So, if it's a little bit longer than I think it'll be worth the price. Right now, I'd say it might be like a $20 game in my mind, but it's definitely really good. So
yeah, it's unique, and for what it is, it's very well done, and it feels like a game coming from a movie studio is what it feels like, and I think that's what it's supposed to feel like.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on. Not only did we try out the brand new Groundhog's Day game this week, we also tried the brand new DLC from Blood and Truth on PSVR. We didn't get a full, we didn't get any additional story content. They did add in a hard difficulty mode, which I did not spend any time in. And the reason I didn't spend any time in it, I played it today. It's because I spent so much time in these skeet challenges, which is the other part that they added in. They added 5 different challenge modes that are based on target shooting. And the unique thing about these to the game is that these actually use the PlayStation aim controller. And you know me, give me an excuse to use my aim controller, I'm in. I got in a little frustrating at first, couldn't hardly hit anything. But it dawned on me, hey, perhaps I should aim down the sights with my shotgun. And when I did that, I started to hit the target, and it wasn't long before I was hooked on this. I started checking the leaderboard after every time I played, and did moderately well worldwide, did very well as far as the region goes, and pretty much demolished my friends, who I'm not going to call out by name, but I will just say that my friends that were on these leaderboards, YouTubers, much bigger YouTubers than I am, and I pretty much smoked these guys' scores on my first attempt almost every time. So I don't know if they just suck or if I'm actually pretty good or a little bit of both. But you guys know who you are. Step your game up.
Mm-hmm.
Ruuts, what did you think about the Blood and Truth DLC?
It was pretty good. I got a little bit in time in there. I my mindset before I went in was already that it was a little bit unnecessary. In that mind, I just bled in there. It was cool. It was definitely different, like you said. I didn't do very well because I wasn't aiming down the sights. I didn't get that epiphany like you did. I just kept shooting like a normal shotgun and kept missing and thinking, man, I suck at this. But it was cool. My biggest thing was, aside from having the aim controller, the biggest thing with the aim controller is the joystick, and you're still moving node to node. You're just pushing the joystick forward. So my mindset was like, this seems ridiculous. Like, well, why is it even why am I using the aim controller? So I went back out and I came back in with the move controllers and confirmed that I had more fun with the move controllers opposite of you. And it was probably just my mindset that it was, I just feel like I wish I could run around instead of still be node to node. And I get it. It's not the way the game is, but at that point I just lose interest in using the aim controller.
Yeah, I enjoyed using the aim controller. I thought, we already knew that the look and sound of this game is just phenomenal. I like the feel of having when I'm using a two-handed weapon, to having a two-handed controller in my hand, and the haptics were there as well. So I really liked it. I would be interested in checking it out. Some of the time attacks with the move controllers, because some of those are, they're 9mm one-handed weapons. So obviously moves would be better for that. But with these shotguns and assault rifles, I really liked having the aim. And what you're saying there about the movement with the thumbstick, all that did was prove to me that if they want to, they can redo this game with the aim controller, which would be phenomenal in my book. I already love this game. That would just give me another excuse to play through it a second time. You think they're going to do that? You think that that's the idea here? Is just this is their first implementation of the aim controller, and they're going to see how people take to it, how well it performs, and then maybe implement it into the story on a larger scale?
That'd be nice, but I know when I went in, it had like some kind of disclaimer. It said something about that it was only for challenge modes, and it was because of gameplay. It was specifically not going to be in the main game, which you just said was a lie, which I agree, because they can do it. It's just they don't want to do it for whatever reason, or like you said, maybe they're just testing the waters, seeing how it's received, seeing how it comes out, and then all of a sudden they drop it. I wouldn't be opposed to playing the entire campaign with it. I just feel like for this, it just didn't, I just wanted to turn. That's my biggest thing. Just let me, turn with the joystick even. So,
Yeah, well, I mean, I get you there, but in defense of the aim controller, you can't turn with the moves either. You're stuck. So
yeah, that's true.
For those of you who don't know, it's not just basic skeet shooting like you're seeing in the clip here. There are 5 modes. There was a basic skeet shooting. Then you come to this, which is I forget the name of each mode, but basically in this one you have alternating bouts. You shoot a few skeets, and then you go into motion, and as you're walking down the walkways, these targets shoot up, and you have to, establish which ones are bad guys and which ones are good guys. Your basic police simulator training thing. There was a puzzle mode where basically you have to shoot 3 targets, and then when you do that, these colored lights flash to tell you which colored skeet you're supposed to shoot, and then 3 different colored skeet come out, and you have to shoot the correct color. That is a time trial. You have to make it through it fast is how you score. Probably my 2 favorite ones, though. There was one, I think it was called survival mode or something like that. And the concept here is you start with 3 lives. If you miss one of the clay pigeons, you lose one of your lives. But if you nail 3 in a row, you get it back. And it basically it allows for more differentiation on the leaderboard, because literally you can keep scoring as long as you're hitting the target. And then at the end, another awesome one was called Extreme Skeet or something like that. And it's a combination like this. It's a combination of the pop-up targets and the skeet. And you basically move through the level as if you were playing the game. And all these enemy targets are popping up at you, and you're shooting them. But every now and then a skeet will fly out. And if you can be quick enough and shoot that, it really helps your score out. But yeah, it's not, it doesn't hold a candle to the base game, obviously, but as a proposition to add value to an already great game, I did find the gameplay addicting, and I didn't want to stop. So
you're gonna go back in after just to like randomly to play some more skeet?
No, I probably won't, but what I probably will do is I'll probably go back in to play story mode. Again, there are paths in the story mode that I didn't take that are unexplored. Now there's a hard mode to give the game more challenge. And then I would imagine as I finish with my play session, each time I go into play story mode, I'll probably get 30 minutes of skeet shooting in before I quit. So
yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's cool. Hopefully it doesn't suffer the fate that I think it's going to suffer, and people just play with it like a new toy and put it down. If people keep engaging it and make the leaderboards something to aspire to, I think it could be worthwhile. But right now, I mean, I played each each one of these modes 2 to 3 times and placed fairly well worldwide on the leaderboard, I felt like I could challenge for the top spots in the world if I just put a couple hours into it. It shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be like that. I shouldn't be pushing it on my first try, but it is new. So we'll see what happens with it over time. Hopefully people enjoy it, and it becomes a feature that's here to stay.
I'm pretty sure you didn't see my score on there because played after you. Otherwise, who knows, man? No, just kidding. Actually, I look like this guy, whoever it was. I mean, I just missed so much. But I will go back in just to try it. But I did prefer the Move controllers. It's one of, like you said, it's one of those games where there's no penalty for using them, tracking wise. So
yeah, I would be interested to trying it in the with the Move controllers, but I honestly think that the Move controllers would probably work better in the time attack for me. I always feel weird holding two-handed weapons with single-handed controllers.
It felt good though. It felt really good.
Which it felt good in the game too, in like the story mode. So I imagine it probably would feel pretty good in this game particularly. So yeah, we'll probably give it a shot, especially in the situation like I said, where I'm in there anyway, already playing the story, already have the Move controllers in my hand.
Yeah.
All right, so a good game gets better. Basically, the story here. For those of you who didn't like it the first time, I don't imagine this is going to change your mind, but I don't really think there were all that many people out there that didn't like it the first time. This is a great game.
Yeah.
All right, speaking of great games, we're just at the onset of VR week. OC6 is this week. The Sony State of Play is this week. Today we're getting a new Pistol Whip trailer, along with a developer interview, and God knows what else is going to surprise us this week. Half-Life 3, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But it provoked a conversation between Ruuts and myself. One of those fun hypotheticals that we all like to have. If you could pick any game that you would want to be announced, games that don't exist, games that have not been announced yet, sequels, ports, anything, what would these games be? And this is always a fun conversation, this what if conversation. And we felt with this week coming up and knowing that there's going to be some of these types of announcements most likely this week, Ruuts and I decided that would be our topic for discussion this week on the Monday show. So what we're going to do here, we've got it broken down basically into two different categories. One being games we'd like to see sequels to, or maybe even ported, like if it's on PC, ported to PlayStation. If it's on PlayStation, ported to PC. And then the second category is ports of flat games, past, present, and future. So we'll start with the sequels category. Ruuts, give us your first game that you would like to see some kind of a sequel to.
All right. So my first came from Oculus Studios. It's actually played it by accident and was so enthralled with it that I didn't stop playing, and was like one of those ones I played 2 or 3 days in a row and just finished it. And when it was over, was so sad for a lot of reasons, because I didn't particularly like the ending. Not that it wasn't good, it's just not the one I wanted. And in the game, I was sad that it was over. It was just so good. The gameplay, the mechanics, the story. Edge of Nowhere is one of the best games in VR, in my opinion. Definitely one of the best platformer games in VR. And I would love to see a sequel come out today.
Coming out today. This is, first of all, you're absolutely right about this game. It's one of the first, it may have even been the first PC VR game that I actually played all the way through. When I started, I couldn't stop with it. It was so good and so well done. I really had a load of fun. But sequels in general, this is something that we need in VR. We don't need for these game developers to reinvent the wheel. We don't need new game engines, new features. We just need new levels and new stories in the engines that we already have. These games, we already love these games. So I think that it's definitely within the realm of possibility 3 to 4 years in now that we could start seeing stuff like this. Now, for those of you who know me, this won't be any real surprise to you, but I started as a PlayStation VR gamer. That was my first VR headset. It was all I had forever. So obviously my favorite games in VR are going to be PSVR games. So this category, sequels, it's all PSVR stuff for me. My favorite games are all PSVR games, or mostly anyway. So my first one here is a game that you hear me talk about often, and it's another aim controller game like we were just talking about. I love my aim controller, and this is the definitive aim controller game in my opinion, and that game is Farpoint. Farpoint has it all. It has an epic story mode. There are challenge modes if you like faster paced arcade style gameplay. There you have that. The challenge modes are pretty much basically like a speed run mode that you run through and just try to score and get out as fast as you can. Check out that boss, Roots.
That's just crazy, right? Like, scale is so good in this too.
Yeah, it's nuts. Everything's so well done. This is a AAA quality game. There's co-op modes. There's versus multiplayer. People like Firewall, but Firewall, as great as it is, it's one-dimensional. And in my opinion, it doesn't hold a candle to Farpoint. Now, with Farpoint, the ending, I'm not going to spoil it, but the ending is left somewhat ambiguous, in my opinion. Some people think it's more definitive than I do, but in my opinion, it's ambiguous. There's room for a sequel here, and definitely top of my list. If I'm picking games that I'd like to see a sequel to, definitely Farpoint is one of those games.
Yeah, this is it, Wes. This is the place. You were asking me earlier how far I've been. This is where I've died a bunch of times, is on this spider boss. So I'm just like, I've gotten close. It's just those bombs that he keeps throwing down, and I need to get the shotgun. I don't think I have the shotgun, but yeah, this game is super cool, and it's making me want to play it again because it's been a while. And I was just telling you, I didn't care about the story because I wanted to play some multiplayer, but I do care about the story. So I don't know. I'm conflicted.
Yeah. It's I have conflicted feelings too because I want to play co-op with you, but even the first co-op level has enemy types from later in the game. Like from the very first minute you get in the co-op, you'll see every type of enemy that you're going to come across in this game, and therefore it's going to spoil the surprise what's coming, So
yeah, because I thought it was all spiders, and you told me no.
These are the basic. Now that said, you don't really have another boss fight like this in the game. There's some tough situations, but you don't have to fight any more megalithic enemies like this. So I thought that was kind of strange, but yeah, I can definitely tell you what you need to do here to beat this thing, and that's another story for another day. What's your second sequel that you'd like to see?
My second sequel is actually more of a port. See, I'm the opposite. I have been PC first, so everything goes the opposite way. I'd like to see Blood and Truth that we were just talking about ported to PC. I'd like to crank up the graphics. I'd like to play with touch controllers. One of the things that I found was frustrating at first, because I didn't realize that my bullets were on my chest, because I forgot it's been so long. I was shooting, I kept grabbing because it's the same trigger, You know, like I can't accidentally shoot when I'm trying to grab with my touch controller because it's a different button. So, you know, I'd love to play this game, even if it's node based, you know, which it would be. I still would love to play it on PC and just check it out and you know, PC VR glory.
Yeah, 100%. And let me just go ahead and say here that this applies to every game that I've picked. I would love to see any and all of these come to PC. I've pretty much said that since day one. I've kind of backed off of it a little bit since I heard what the specs are going to be for PlayStation 5 and that it's going to be backwards compatible. So now I know I'm going to get to see these games with a powerful machine behind them. So I'm not so hot to get them on PC anymore. But absolutely, it applies to every game I picked, and this one as well. The node-based movement in this game, you go into it thinking that it's going to be a negative, but especially when you're using move controllers, it's just the opposite. It allows you. There's lots of nodes in the game, and basically, what the node-based movement style in this game does, unlike any other, is it allows you to not think about locomotion. You just kind of move to where you want to go without thinking about it. And that's a rarity when you're talking about move controller locomotion. That's the thing. You're always thinking about what button to push to move because there's no thumbsticks. But this game is the exception to that. Very much like a PC experience already. And I'm sure as beautiful as it is on PlayStation VR, in these new headsets with these super clear displays, I'm sure it would look even that much better.
Yeah, plus going node to node also, it's freeing, like, because you focus on the shooting as well. So like as you're moving, you're able to shoot. You just click on it like you said, and now you're magically moving and you just shoot as you go. I like it, you know. I mean, for people that are so wrapped up on everything having to be like real life, say that they should be just in real life, take the headset off and just enjoy everything right in real life, because, you know, I enjoy doing things in games that I can't do in real life. That's one of the beauties about it, you know.
Yeah, that's 100% what it's all about. You know, you go into this simulation to do things that you can't normally do. Otherwise, what's the point, right?
Yeah.
All right. My next game that I'd love to see a port to, one of the greatest games of all time. Definitely the greatest platformer that we've ever seen in VR, and one of the best platformers, period. And of course, you all already know I'm talking about Astrobot Rescue Mission. Just an absolute masterpiece, this game. A joy to play. Every time I see a clip of it, I want to hop into it. Every time I hop into it, I forgot how good it was. It's one of those. I forgot just how amazing this game is every time. So how could you forget, right? But that's the way this is. These environments are so big and beautiful. Again, PC level clarity here with this. So I definitely would love to see it come to PC so I could use the better hardware. But again, I know that day's going to come with the next PlayStation and the next PSVR especially. But yeah, I've played through this game twice already. I'm sure I'll play through it again soon enough. But I'm ready for some new levels. Such level diversity here. Literally, I'm curious to see how they're going to be able to follow this up. It was so well done. They hit so many of the different level types that you see in these types of games. I'm super excited to see what they're going to come up with next.
Yeah, I'll tell you something that surprised, or will probably surprise you, is I still haven't finished this game.
Oh my God.
I know, it surprises me because, like, you know, a while back, you know, even Mamefan was saying he didn't get it. He's like, you know, because I was saying I like to savor it, enjoy it, you know. Okay, well, now it's way past savoring and enjoying, and it's like, why the fuck have you not beaten this, Ruuts? Because I want to see it finished. And another point or question, I guess, to you would be, Do you think there'd be a chance of them adding DLC before they added a completely different game, or do you think they would be focusing? Or we both agreed they've got to be focusing on a new game.
Yeah,
Or
I 100% think that they are working on this sequel as we speak. Uh, I don't think DLC makes a lot of sense here. I think that there's already a buttload of levels to this. On top of that, there are extra challenge levels for you to complete after that, which I haven't even done the challenge levels yet. That's probably what I need to do is go through those challenges. Um, there's all kinds of cool stuff you can do on the ship. This is a complete game. It's one of the most well-regarded games in VR. It's going to continue to sell copies. I don't really see a need for DLC here on any level. To be
yeah,
honest, if they were to come out with a DLC announcement, as happy as I would be to have more here, I'd be kind of disappointed because I want the sequel. I want a full game.
yeah, your mindset's like me. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm glad I got the DLC, but like, you're wasting time, dude. What are you doing? You should have been making the sequel, completely different stuff. And I have no doubt that Japan Studio will blow us away with the whatever new stuff they come out with in the next version. And I'm like you, I'd like to see where they go with the innovation wise. I'd like to see like a Mario 64 type, or that was so like innovative at the jumping in the pictures and different worlds. And I mean, it was just so different. Bring that to VR as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, man, I gotta admit, when I was reading the rundown for Sony's State of Play this week, and one of the things they mentioned would happen this week is we would be getting updates from Sony's worldwide studios. This is the first thing that popped in my head. Oh, wouldn't it be so awesome if there was an Astrobot sequel announced this week?
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what'll be coming out of there, right?
Exactly. All right, what's your third selection from this category?
All right. So my third choice is Invisible Hours. I'm actually wanting a sequel to this one. Now they just did Groundhog's Day, and it was done well, Tequila Works, but it's just not the same. What Invisible Hours did, the way they told the story and everything, it makes me want a sequel, or if not a sequel, a completely different story made the exact same way. I loved the way it was done. It's a game / experience. And you blew me away, Wes. I blew you away saying I didn't finish Astrobot. You blew me away earlier today when you just said you've never played this. This is another game. Every episode, there's always something that I'm like, oh my God, you haven't tried this? This is so good. The story and everything, and following each person around, and then coming back and then going to another person, following them around and piecing the story down together. And then the ending blew me away so much that there's just so much going on in that mansion at the same time. It's the ultimate murder mystery, and you have to try it, dude.
Yeah, I think you're right. Initially when this game came out, it was kind of high priced, but that's no excuse anymore. I own this game now. I actually got it just because it was part of a bundle from Fanatical that had like 3 VR games in it, plus like another 5 flat games. It was like $5 for the bundle.
Wow.
And so I just went ahead and picked it up just because it was such a deal. But yeah, this sort of game is my thing. I like narrative driven experiences, and people keep saying that this is one of the best. So I probably should find time to either do a review of it, or maybe on a because I said so segment. We'll bring this one up, but definitely one that's fairly high up on my backlog here.
Yeah, it's really good. And like I said, I'd like to see a sequel. Actually, I don't know that there could be a sequel, but even just a spin-off or just anything. Like I said, I'm looking for interactive movies. I want something that keeps blowing my mind every time. And You know, imagine Edge of Tomorrow or something with you know that type of a movie where you're constantly dying and starting, and I mean I don't know, man. There's so many different things you could do with an interactive movie. So
Yeah, 100%. My type of thing, and a good choice. I would imagine. For my last choice in this category, obviously we're talking about sequels. We're talking about games that we want to see ported from one platform to the next. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my favorite game, Resident Evil 7. Now, this could go in any number of ways. You know, I would love to see Resident Evil 8 in VR. It doesn't necessarily have to be tied in to the story of 7. I love the franchise. Um, so I would love to see a new title. It could be just like this one. It could be gamepad only, seated game. I absolutely love Resident Evil 7 in VR, and I would love to see it on PC. You know, I constantly wrestle with should I get into Vortex and all that tinkering and things that are involved with it. And really, my main motivation, as cool as all this other stuff is, my main motivation for that is I want to play Resident Evil 7 on a powerhouse machine. And I don't want to wait for PlayStation 5. I want it now. So, yeah, either way, I would be excited. If they were to announce that it's coming to the Epic Game Store, I'd be super pumped. If they were to announce Resident Evil 8, I'd be even more pumped. If they were to announce Resident Evil 1 Remake in VR, I'd be super pumped. So, yeah, I just love this franchise. I love this game. And any kind of announcement regarding it in VR, I'm down for it.
yeah, I would love to play this on PC, man. I'm loving it on PlayStation VR, and it's so good. If you crank the graphics up, use touch controllers, well, I guess it wouldn't really matter. It's gonna be gamepad either way. And we were talking about that as well. Like at some point, man, I don't care if it's gamepad or not. Just port it over and let the dust settle. Let the people that bitch about it miss out on it, and let me love the game with gamepads. You know, I don't care what game it is. I think it's good for VR, and I'd love to see this on PC for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I don't need every game to be a one-to-one real life simulation. Uh, the most intricate and best designed games in the world are still flat games. And if you want to give me a flat game that I can immerse myself in and actually be in that world, that was what I always ever wanted anyway in the first place, was to be in the game. And if that means sitting down and using a controller, then so be it. You know, sure, I like one-to-one simulation stuff too. I want to move around, walk around. I want to feel like it's real life. But that said, a lot of my favorite games are gamepad games. So this one, chief among them.
And they're done so well. Like, you know what I mean? Like even like Edge of Nowhere was done gamepad, and it's just the immersion of being in that environment. You don't think about it. So I just think it's a purist way of looking at things. And I get it. Like you said, I want to play everything. I want to be able to move around and grab stuff and do that. But like I said in yesterday's episode, you know, the alternative is not playing it at all in VR, and or at least with the, you know, some of the games that would be ported over. So what's the difference? So
Yeah, 100%. We're on the same page here. Give me these games, and I'll. If I had the, you know, if I could pick 20 titles from the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 era to be ported into VR, but still just gamepad, I'd be good for a year. You know what I mean?
yeah, those days are
Probably
coming.
longer. Yeah, I think so too. Especially with PSVR, I think that we're going to see a lot more of these types of things. And that brings us to the next category, VR ports of flat games. So same deal here. Roots pick three, I pick three. In no certain order or ranking, just three of many that we would like to see. Roots, what's your first?
Yeah, well, like you said, we were trying to pick ones that, there's always the obvious ones, so we're staying away from those ones. This one is something that I think would be done very well because it's a third person fighting game, and it's really about the action and then the environments around you, and be Dark Souls 3. And I know you said you haven't played any of the Dark Souls games, but man, it is some of the hardest shit I've ever played. Even in Dark Souls 3, the first mini boss you get through, like you can play, like I've told you before, I like to play with other people that can carry me through the game. But there's a mini boss. You got to beat this mini boss before you can even get to the multiplayer, and it's hard as hell. But it's just the environments, the bosses, the gameplay, the way that you really do tweak your characters. It's just so good. And I'd love to see it in VR. I'd love to see this world in VR.
Yeah, I'm not familiar. I mean, I know of these games, but I've never played it. I actually, before VR, I had gotten away from gaming for many years. I think the last game that I beat before, VR brought me back into gaming was the first Gears of War game. So that's how long I had been laid off from gaming. So a lot of this stuff that people talk about being these classic games, I haven't tried. I did play The Last of Us. I did play the Uncharted games, but that was in the year leading up to having PSVR. I bought my PS4 a year ahead of time, knowing that the next year I'm going to get the VR headset. That's the reason I bought it. But, I've got this awesome console here. Why not try some of the games? And that's what I did that year. I played The Last of Us, which I loved, and Uncharted, which was great as well. Okay, so yeah, what Roots there said is true to some extent here. We did leave off a few of the more obvious ones. Obviously, everyone wants The Last of Us in VR. Everyone wants Grand Theft Auto in VR, God of War, etc., etc. We tried to pick a few of the more obscure ones, but we did have some more popular ones too. My first choice is actually a pretty popular game, a game that came with my PlayStation 4. I'm talking about Uncharted, a franchise as popular as it is, I really wasn't familiar with until I bought my PlayStation 4 with the intention of getting a PlayStation VR. But in that time between getting the console and getting the VR headset, I thought, why not? I'm going to be getting back into gaming. Why not play a few of these games that are cheap or came with it? And I played all the way through Uncharted 4, and I really enjoyed it. It has a very Tomb Raider feel to it. If you like Edge of Nowhere and you like that cliff face, type of climbing mechanic, that's very much what you would get with an Uncharted VR game, only times 100. It's action movie scale, epic scenes in this. Kind of like, I guess Indiana Jones would be a more accurate representation of what Uncharted is. And really cinema level experiences here. Epicness. Epic, probably the most accurate descriptive word I could use for Uncharted. It would just be epic to experience this in VR.
Yeah, I've never played any of the Uncharted's, and this trailer looks really good. Now you said it's like Tomb Raider as well, correct? As far as the gameplay.
So just the scenery, some of the you're exploring these archaeological sites and ruins, and that's really the gist of it. You're kind of you're kind of like exploring, looking for artifacts and chasing mythological cities, lost cities, things like that. That's what this game is all about. These people are scholars on history. They're looking for treasure, priceless treasures, some of which are thought to be myth. But these guys seem to have a knack for finding this stuff and losing it at the end, but barely escaping with their lives. But probably about as epic an adventure as I've ever experienced in VR.
So I mean, this is kind of
I'm sorry, not in VR, but in a game.
Okay, yeah, this is probably one of those games that, like you were saying, because it's on PlayStation already, probably a good chance at some point it will be in VR or there will be an Uncharted of some sort. They've already got it. I don't see why you wouldn't start porting stuff over, even if it's the earlier ones that maybe aren't as graphically intense, to get them in for the PlayStation 4, or maybe the 5. But it'd be kind of interesting to see. I'd like to play it.
Yeah, I think that PlayStation 5 is going to unlock all sorts of possibilities when it comes to ports. I mean, I can't imagine that there's a single PS3 game that they wouldn't be able to port into VR on PS5.
Yeah, especially if they make it like a wireless or something, like a standalone. That'd be kind of cool.
Oh God, yeah, that'd be awesome. Be awesome. But that's another conversation for another day. What's your second game, Ruuts?
My second game is actually Western, Red Dead Redemption 2 or Red Dead Redemption of any sort. I was just telling you a little while ago, Westworld really opened up to me just the idea of going into the Old West, and I started thinking there really is no Old West in VR, like Arizona Sunshine a little bit. There's nothing like this, and I would love to go to the Old West and check it out and do a lot of really cool missions. And I don't know, man, I just think it would be super cool.
Yeah, I think that this is one of the biggest no-brainers for VR. Not specifically any one of these games, but this genre in particular. It's appealing to our age demographic, and our age demographic pretty much dominates the VR player base right now. It's all us old middle-aged guys, and pretty unanimously, I think we would all love to at least once experience an open world Western in VR. I think it would be incredible, and there's no better example of that than Red Dead Redemption. So,
yeah, I've been waiting for this to come out on PC, even just on flat, man. Like I'd play it flat if I could on PC, but still hasn't made it over yet. But yeah, hopefully someday they'll put it something. I like anything Western, just a really good Western game. I'll take an independent one.
I 100% agree. Could you imagine like gunfight at OK Corral VR?
Yeah, dude.
That'd be awesome, right?
Yeah, that would be a really cool.
You pick your character and oh God, I don't want to get started on that. We'll be here all night. This is a big no-brainer here. Definitely something we're lacking sorely in VR. If Westworld's your best example of a Western in VR, then we need more Westerns.
Yeah,
in VR.
for real.
All right. My next, I said I was going to stay away from the no-brainers, but I think my next one's the biggest no-brainer of them all because it's the one everyone always calls for. When we talk about porting older generation games into VR, it's unanimous. BioShock's always the one that comes up. Now, I think the difference between this game and the other ones that we're listing off here, I think that it's highly likely that BioShock's already in development for PSVR. I think Sony knows that they listen to their community, and as I just mentioned, everyone always says that this is what they want because it's such a perfect match for VR. The way this game plays, the way that you inject yourself with these abilities and you shoot fire and electricity from your hands. It's like it was a VR game made before VR was a thing. And during that period I was just speaking about, between the time that I picked up my console and then I got my VR, I had GameFly. And one of the things that I got from Gameplay was the Bioshock trilogy. This was the last thing that I played, in fact, before I got my VR. I played completely through the first Bioshock. I made it probably a halfway, maybe 2/3 of the way through the second one. And then I got my VR headset, and I pretty much haven't played any flat games since then. But 100%, this is one that is an obvious, perfect match for VR, and I think we could be seeing this really soon. I think that there's a real possibility that this game could be announced this week.
So, do you think it'll be an actual game, or because that's the biggest thing is like, I'm tired of hearing, Wolfenstein's coming out, and then it's this shit version of okay version, I guess I should say. I just want this in VR or something akin to it. If they can't do it on this scale, I get it, but don't give us like an experience that's supposed to give us a taste of it. It's not 2016 anymore, like we're at the point where I want the damn game. I don't want the trailer for the game. And that's what I kind of feel like experiences like Wolfenstein Cyberpilot are like tidbits. They throw us a cracker here, calm down, kid, we'll get to you later. I want the real meal.
No, I don't think it'll be like Wolfenstein Cyberpilot. I think that this is going to be Sony funded, at least partially. It's going to be subsidized, and I think it's going to be Bioshock 1, straight VR ports, Bioshock 1 with full 6 DAW controls. That's what I think we've got coming, and I'd be surprised at this time next year if we haven't heard anything about it.
That'd be fine for me because I've never played through any of the Bioshocks.
Oh, dude, so good, so good.
Yeah, so it'd be fresh, man.
Yeah, it would be awesome. This is the third one here. This is Bioshock Infinite. I actually haven't played this one. This looks actually vastly different from the ones that I played. The ones that I played were all in this what was once this utopian underwater world. The idea here is that political separatists decided that they were going to secede from the governments of the world, so they go to this underwater dome and create their own civilization. But by the time the game starts, by the time you get there, it's post-apocalyptic. It's all fell to ruins, and you're here trying to survive. You discover this place some 50 years later, or maybe even longer than that. You discover this place, you kind of wash up into it from a shipwreck, and you try to survive. And people down there have mutated. It's an epic story. It's one of the best games I've ever played, and it's a perfect match for VR.
Wow, well, I can't wait for it to come out. You said it's going to be announced this week? Oh, wait, you said it could be. Hopefully.
I think it's
crossing
a
fingers.
possibility.
Yeah.
I wouldn't call it a likelihood. I would call it a possibility, and I would say that it is likely that it is in development right now. This is, this is the one everybody always points to. So I think that it's very likely that Sony's going to end up bringing it and making a little bit of noise for their platform.
I'll take it.
I would too, 100%. All right, that leaves us with our final selection. Ruuts, what is your final game that you'd like to see announced?
My final one would be probably never happened, but kind of the same reason for Red Dead Redemption, and I guess some people might argue with me on this point, but I picked Sea of Thieves because there's no real pirate. There's no real pirate stuff out there. Yes, you have Battle Wake, and you've got a couple of other little things, and I'm not saying Battle Wake is little in that respect. Big title, but it's part of the whole thing. And this, I've never played a game that's as cool as this game is, especially when you get a group of 3 other people and you're running a 4-person ship and just doing all sorts of missions and digging up treasure and fighting people attacking you and pirates, and I mean, there's just so much to it. So it's just one of the ultimate pirate games, and I'd love to even play it on Vorpex if I could figure out how to do it, but I don't think that's going to happen. So
Yeah, I know that this is a popular game. A lot of people like it, but again, not really that familiar with it. What I will say, if you like pirate stuff and pirate lore, you'd really like Uncharted 4. The premise of that game is that you're trying to find this lost city of pirates, where the pirates of the world hundreds of years ago were kind of shunned by society, and the legend has it that they all kind of vanished and created their own city on some secluded island somewhere, and you get this lead to where that mythical city might be, chasing some kind of mythical gigantic treasure, and that's the whole theme of that game. You travel all over the world trying to find this pirate city, and if you like pirate stuff, you'd love that game.
yeah, sounds really cool.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's really awesome.
Can you have a peg leg?
I think there are some mentions of that sort of thing, but you don't get one yourself.
I want a peg leg and I want an eye patch, but that's
Be careful what you ask for.
yeah,
Roots.
no. In the game, I won't put that out in real life. So
All right, yeah, I think pirate stuff's pretty cool too. I don't know anything about this game specifically. I know that it's popular, and I'm sure it would be great in VR.
yeah,
So that brings us to my final game, and the final game of this week's Monday show. And this game, popular in its time, but I don't hear it come up so much in this particular conversation. And it's kind of odd to me because it's another one like BioShock that I think is perfect for VR. It's kind of like a VR game before VR was a thing. And I'm talking about Infamous. Infamous is, at the time, was one of the most popular games in the world when it came out. And the concept here is you've become mutated, and you basically control electricity. You're kind of like Storm from X-Men, but you don't, you can't fly, but you learn that you have this ability to harness electricity through your body. And at the beginning, it's kind of crude. You're just kind of fighting off the bad guys with your lightning bolts out of your hands. But over time, you get these, you develop your abilities more and more. You get different things like levitations and different abilities with it. But the coolest thing about this game is the way you travel, and you can see some of it here. You kind of float through the city. The main mode of transport around the city is the power lines. You basically grind on the power lines like you're Tony Hawk's Pro Skater or something like this. What? Fuck! They switched off of it. But you basically have these big falls, and you land on these power lines, and you're like surfing through the city, skating around on power lines, all the while seeing bad guys on the ground level, and you're shocking them with your lightning bolts that are coming out of your hands. So fun, and I imagine it would be just unbelievable in VR. Go ahead, Roots. I was just going to ask you, are you familiar with this game at all?
oh yeah, I love this game, man. I played through it originally as one of the few games. I was just thinking, back in the day when I played this, and I didn't play many games at one time, so I finished games because I would just focus on one game, and this was one of them. And everything about the way you moved in this was different, revolutionary. The fact that you charged up your powers on those when you were grinding on those power lines was cool. They even had those missions where you had to like move through quickly and teleport all over the place. Man, I think this would be amazing in VR.
Yeah, I almost would rather have this as BioShock. They're very neck and neck with me. They both seem like they were concepts developed for VR. And BioShock comes up all the time, but Infamous not very often. And I think that it should. I think that this, one of my top among, I said this isn't a ranked list, but man, would I love to have this game in VR.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap up Monday show number 6, ladies and gentlemen. What would you like to see in VR? We're going to get some announcements this week, most likely. What would you like? If you could pick one game, whether it be a port or a sequel, what would you like to see announced for VR this week? Be sure to let us know in the comments down below. And if you've liked this video, you know what to do. Click that thumbs up. And for those of you new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell to keep up with all of our nearly daily content here on the Virtual Strangers channel. With that being said, I'd like to thank you folks for watching. And for Ruuts, I'm Wes. We'll see you tomorrow, friends. Bye-bye.
Take it easy.